I'm sitting here with Angela O'Leary, mayoral candidate and councillor candidate for Hamilton West for the elections 2019 in Hamilton.
Yep.
Now, we're sitting in your little mobile office, which is really, really cool.
It is, isn't it?
This could make a really good media office for me.
A travelling media office.
So it might go missing.
Good luck with that.
But anyway, I might as well start off with the question that I've asked everyone, and that's, why should we vote for you, either as candidate or mayor?
Well, preferably as mayor.
Yeah.
But I appreciate all my West Ward supporters will support me in that as well. Look, I'm the most experienced mayoral candidate, and I'm also the best. I'm the best because I have served the city for 12 years as a dedicated Hamilton City Councillor.
Yes, you've done your apprenticeship.
I've done, and I said that, I've done my apprenticeship. And people, I'd like to think that people know me and they can trust me, because what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
And Angela O'Leary sitting here with you, campaigning, is the same Angela O'Leary at home. Probably no makeup and track pants, but I'm still the same person, and I'm very open and honest about that. I have no hidden agenda, no business interests. It's just me and my relationship with the people in the city, and it's a role that being an elected official is such a privilege. Very few people in the world get to do that, and I recognise that and I respect that. And I like to think that I have served my apprenticeship and that people would see and realise that I'm here for them and I am the best person for this job.
And you're taking it seriously.
I
think some candidates in the election are not completely serious.
Politics is unusual, isn't it? Because it often attracts some colourful characters.
Colourful characters.
It's like colourful.
I suppose it's the one time people with an issue can get out and have a platform to put their issue forward.
Yeah.
Even if they do know that they got no chance of actually winning.
Yeah.
And I know there's a couple of candidates like that at least that I know will acknowledge that they're not going to win.
Yeah.
But they just want to either test the waters and see how people respond, or just be able to stand up and talk about an issue at the meetings.
Yeah. And I guess that's part of democracy.
Yeah.
The frustrating thing when you're a serious candidate like myself is that, particularly in the world we live in, the media tend to follow the clickbait stories.
Yeah.
And so you're not getting your issues out and your platforms out and your ideas out to the wider community.
And when you're a bit of an election geek like me, this is my fourth Hamilton election. Next year will be my fourth central body election.
Yeah.
And you're brought up in a family like mine, we from age 8 you just took an interest in politics anyway, because basically there wasn't much option, you just did, right? And it became interesting. You get annoyed when you look at the fact that there's 8 mayoral candidates, and really it's a 3-horse race. It's you, Paula and Andrew.
Yeah.
The other 4 don't really, well, they're there, but they're just soaking up a few votes, to be honest.
Yeah.
You and Paula are going to get the bulk of the non-Andrew votes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that whole section of votes is going to be pretty split because of the others. I was talking to Mark yesterday and was talking about the fact that if 2 of those people stood down and weren't running, your and Paula's chances would be a lot different than they are now. The margin would be a lot safer.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of that though, and I understand that rhetoric and I understand where you're coming from, but that assumes that Paula and I are the same, and we are very, very different candidates if you're making an informed choice.
Yeah.
Very, very different. I don't sit on the fence.
No.
I stick up for people and for what's right. I have been with the city for 12 years, and I tend to speak, the truth in plain English, and I tell it like it is, and I fight for people and I fight for issues. And
well, you did a really good job fighting for Frankton Markets.
Yeah, well that's true. Gosh, that was a long time ago.
I don't know how many people remember that far back.
Save, it was me and Dave McPherson. Save Frankton Markets, because that was quite a fight with them.
I've still got photos from that of you and Dave and all the whole. Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
So And that's the other thing is, I think people now are looking for candidates that they can trust.
Yeah.
And that they can trust to make good decisions is more than anything else. There is the basic trust the candidate or the councillor, mayor, whatever. But there's also trusting them to make good decisions based on the information presented at council.
That's right.
Because as I was talking to Mark...
Oh, wait, look, there's someone come down to see me.
As I was talking to Mark...
Oh, dear.
Are we going to have a...
We might have to have an edited break.
Let's pause it for a moment, maybe. A short interruption as someone comes past and wishes you well.
Yeah.
Now, apart from you dragging wet weather around with you every time you set up your caravan, what core things could you say that you stand for, that you're going to be keeping an eye out on and that sort of thing for the coming council? Because obviously all councillors, really we need councillors that can sit together and discuss issues and come to decisions that may involve a certain amount of give and take for each individual, because that's the whole concept.
Yes, it is.
Which is why we want a balanced council.
Yes.
So we need people who represent different aspects, from finance through to social issues to green issues, and feel comfortable that they can discuss these issues and come to good decisions and not be stuck with something that they really want to do, or a pet project or something like that. So I hate to use the term pet project, but are there any things that you've got your eye on that you think really need to have some progress made on them for the future of Hamilton? I'm talking what we want Hamilton to look like in 30 years' time.
Good question. First of all, it is a team of 13 people. In my 4 terms on council, there's always been an A and a B team, and I've been once in the A team, or like the mayor's administration or their caucus, and 3 terms in the B team, and I've not enjoyed either of those.
Okay.
Because there's always someone left outside the tent, and it's either, like this term is certainly, I was put into the opposition by the current mayor, which is frustrating because I'm a resource. I'm a resource for the city. I was the 2nd highest polling candidate on the West. I work hard and I've got ideas and I can contribute, but he decided that was it. She's in the opposition, and he got the team, his A team around him. So my major commitment for the city, actually, because I think Hamiltonians are sick of that.
Yeah.
They're sick of that, because you're supposed to be here for the good of the city.
We don't want councillors that fight and squabble like kindergarten children.
No, it's a waste of time. It's anti-democratic. It lacks integrity, and it's a monumental waste of time. And when you're wasting time, you're wasting money. So there's that issue that needs to be fixed. But in terms, I guess, of 30 years, and actually that would be breaking. As mayor, I know I could bring one team together, and I've made no deals with anyone. I've not said you're going to be the deputy mayor, if I'm the, you're going to get this, and you've not said that.
Okay.
As long as it's good for the city, then I want all of the elected members to be able to put their ideas forward, because they're going to be democratically elected by the people of the city. So that's the residents' choice, that's the voters' choice, so I have to work with that, and I have to respect that, and I'm going to. So that's really a big task, and I know I can do it. But in terms of, I guess, looking out 30 years, look, there's some significant issues for the city. Some of them aren't that sexy, like water.
The 3 waters.
The 3 waters. I mean, that is literally a tsunami heading towards our city that we are not prepared for. We don't have debt capacity, none whatsoever. I mean, under this mayor, debt's heading towards $1 billion. $1 billion.
It's true.
And the central government are looking at the 3 waters and saying there's going to be some changes in the legislation.
Oh, okay.
There is a massive amount of costs heading our way, and we're not prepared. We've got great city waters infrastructure. Some of it's ageing, but in terms of our knowledge, our expertise with staff, I think it's absolutely second to none.
That's something that I think has come up a bit in discussion, is the fact that with the infill building in Hamilton, it will put strain on the existing pipes that were designed for one-house properties.
Yeah.
And we can either start working on that now, or leave it for someone else in 10 or 15 years' time to deal with. And the cost of that's going to be horrific.
It is going to be horrific. One of my things is fund core infrastructure first. We have to get that right. And a lot of the mayor and some of the existing councillors have beaten up on previous councils. Founders Bed is falling down. You let it fall down. Infrastructure's struggling. Look, things change with time. Buildings get old. Pipes, which were once, so big, now need to be so big because more people are moving. I mean, that stuff just common sense. And some of the nonsense that you hear about that's just political point scoring. Buildings have a life. Community buildings like Founders have a life of 50 years, and look at it. It's not that great. Bit packed onto the back here and a bit on top here. So.
And it was built before the government had guidelines in as to regulations as to earthquake safety and things like that. That's changed. So now a lot of buildings have had to change, and some buildings are not fit for purpose based on the regulations.
That's right. I heard the current mayor the other day sort of slamming the previous administration for not funding the library. But the library, we closed the library purely because of that. Because suddenly the government changes the goalpost on earthquake strengthening. As soon as staff realise that a building has triggered that and it's unsafe, from my perspective, as soon as I know something's unsafe, whether I believe it's going to fall down or not, I have a responsibility to protect the public. So we had no choice. So those kinds of things, the goalposts are often moving. I think they call it unfunded mandates from central government. Okay. So they say, here's some legislation, respond to it. Here's the alcohol policy, respond to it. Here's changes to the RMA, respond to that. But they give us no money to do that. So we're constantly having to find more funds for these mandates from central government, and actually we don't push back. No. What would they do? There's 170,000 voters or 170,000 residents, 100,000 voters here for central government. What are they going to do? Tell us off? Are they going to write a ticket? Dear Hamilton City, you're being fined $100,000 because you won't do something.
Haul the mayor and councils into the principal's office for a spanking or something.
We're not a... Exactly. We're not a department.
That makes a whole different video.
I know, it does, doesn't it? But we're not a department of government. We're a government ourselves. And I found it quite frustrating that this particular mayor and administration have just bowed down at the whim of central government. And look, I'm not a blue or a red or a green or anything. I'm an independent for good policy, whoever comes up with good policy. But the city is my focus, and the city is my passion, and we're not here to deliver on central government's policy. That's for them to do, and their election promises. We're here for the city and the benefit of the city, so I get frustrated by that. So we need to be pushing back, and believe you me, I will be. One of the key things I'll be pushing back on central government is Crown land needs to pay rates. They do. Can you imagine if that hospital paid its fair share of rates? Millions and millions of dollars. All that Crown land, government-owned land, pays, so we're talking schools, hospitals, all they pay are the core infrastructure, so they pay water and rubbish. They don't contribute to roading or footpaths or the bus services or anything else. The ratepayers pick up that tab, and that's got to stop. So if I'm elected mayor in October, I'm going to be a flea in the government's ear, because that's a burden that our ratepayers carry. Yeah. And they have done for years, and it's just, it's not fair.
You sound a little bit like my mother when she ran for council. My mother did 2 terms in Te Kuiti Council.
Oh, okay.
And it was initially because of 2 reasons. A, Te Kuiti was looking like a dump and needed a bit of beautifying. Yeah. And as an artist, Mum decided that it needed to look nicer.
Yes.
And B, she got sick and tired of the fact that the council was just a bunch of old boys that just sat around and didn't want to rock the boat.
Yeah.
She got in and basically stood up and rocked the crap out of the boat. Probably pissed a lot of people off.
Yeah.
And then got elected for a second term.
Wow, there you go.
But she'd only decided that she'd do no more than 2 terms.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because she felt that she'd accomplished what she needed to.
That's right. Yeah.
And that was it, which
Yeah.
is fine.
Yeah.
As kids, we were a bit annoyed because by the time the second term had finished, we were all going our places.
Yeah.
It was the first term when we were still at high school and had to start doing things for ourselves.
Yeah. Oh, then you wanted mum home again.
Yes.
I get it.
Not to mention the whole having to take phone calls, folding flyers, delivering... Bloody slaves! Delivering flyers. We did enjoy it.
Yeah.
The only good part, not only the only, but one of the good parts was because of the politics background with our family. Dad and I were able to analyse the living daylights out of all the other candidates and the election and everything else, and Mum got advice whether she wanted it or not.
Oh.
But
good.
we must have given some good advice because
Yeah.
she took notice of
Yeah.
a lot of it. But
Yeah.
Dad, I was brought up analysing politicians and other candidates, things
Yeah.
like this. So that was
Yeah.
normal.
Yeah. I try not to play, this is my 5th election now, so I try really hard not to play the what if game.
Yeah.
What if this person gets in? What does it mean if that person and that person get in? Because we know they don't like each other, and what if this happens, and what if that happens? So I have a plan A, and that's to be elected as mayor, and that's it. That's my plan, and there's no what ifs. I'm just focused on October the 12th and my relationship
Talking
with
about
the
that,
city.
because we'll focus more on the mayor thing. Cause
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
good business and good sportsmanship training says you go for first place. And
Yeah, of
that's
course.
it. You don't contemplate the second
No,
place.
no.
You go
No,
for first
stay
place.
focused. Yeah.
So, as mayor, what sort of mayor are you going to be? Because a lot of people don't always think about the difference between a councillor and a mayor. And we know councillors are supposed to sit around and sort things out and
Yeah.
come up with ideas, etc.
Yeah.
A mayor has a slightly different role in the fact that they represent everyone in Hamilton
Yes.
at functions.
Yes.
You're the poor bugger that has to get up for Anzac Day whether you want
Yeah.
to or not, because if you
That's
aren't
right.
there, then it's why is our mayor not turning
Yeah.
up
Why
at
are we
Anzac
not
Day?
represented?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you obviously speak well, because that's an important thing.
It is. Yes.
To be able to give a speech, thank someone for whatever, present an award to
Yeah.
someone, whatever it
Cut a
happens
ribbon,
to be.
yes.
Yeah, cut a ribbon. That's the easy bit.
Open an envelope.
Yeah, open an envelope. Yeah, Angela will turn up for the opening of an envelope.
Just about.
But overall, what do you see the duties of a mayor are? Just so that people can understand, I think, the difference between Angela, the councillor that you are now,
Yeah.
and Angela, the mayor to be.
Yeah. I'll still be the same Angela. I'll still be as open and as accessible as I have been. I'll be busier. I understand that.
Does that mean I still get to come and interview
yes.
the mayor every now and again?
Yes. Because I've always, I can honestly say I am the most and have been the most accessible councillor. I was the first to have a web page, the first to have a blog, the first on social media, the first for all of those things. And every single step I took, I had to fight with my colleagues. Webcams.
Yes.
I remember
Live viewing of the council meetings.
that took me, I don't know how many years, and I still remember the front page of the Waikato Times when Daniel Adams was reporter, and the headline, it was Awful Way to have front page, and it had, is it debate or bullying? While 3 females sat around a committee table when I followed the process and raised the idea for the umpteenth time, just attacked me personally.
Yeah.
So I remember that. That's a big scar, but it was worth it in the end. But what kind of mayor will I be? I'll still be the same person. I'll still be accessible. But it's not about me. It's about the city and the people. You will not see me in any cape whatsoever, Lance. I will not be wearing a red Santa suit. I will not be wearing something with. It's not. I don't even think I'll wear the chains. Maybe
Well, there
if
will
I
be
could,
times when you probably
some
will need
civic
to.
events,
Yeah.
possibly, but I don't need to wear baubles and capes to feel like I am representing something important. And the mayor is not about the person; the mayor is about the office.
Yeah.
It's about the city, and that's a deep respect that I have, and I've struggled with that this term in terms of the office of the mayor being questionable at times, and I've certainly questioned some of the statements, the behaviour in terms of speaking on a national stage.
Yeah.
But I'll be a mayor that people can be proud of, because I do recognise that I'm representing every single Hamiltonian, not just ratepayers, everyone that's here, representing them in the chamber, nationally and internationally, and I'll do that proudly.
And we've had quite a population growth since you first got into council.
Yeah.
I was looking at the figures the other day. When I came to Hamilton, we had a population of 60,000.
Yeah.
We're now closing in on triple that.
Yeah.
So there's been a hell of a big population growth since you first sat on council to now.
I wouldn't know what it was. When I moved to Hamilton from Wellington, it was at 81,000. I do remember that.
That seems small by today.
I know, half of what it is today.
To me anyway, it doesn't seem like it's that much bigger.
No, not when you've stayed and you live here, and you don't notice it as much as I guess if you left.
But you brought up, you sort of brought up a bit about technology and modernising things. Like, for instance, it was quite a novelty when you got the live streaming of the council meetings.
Yeah, wasn't it?
That was a bit of a novelty, and I'll admit I was one of the people that logged on and watched it.
Yeah.
Even if I'd have it running in the background while I was doing something else. I'd be editing photos and it'd be running in the background.
You are an election geek, aren't you? Politics geek.
I'm not afraid to say that. And listen to it, and it was interesting, and it was good. But and your whole campaign's been different. Like, you're the only one that I've noticed that has a mobile office that you're going out and parking in the community where people can see you and actually stop in and toots. Oh, you wonder why there's so much tooting. That's why. And people can stop in and see you and interact with you. But you've been very much interested in making use of, or from what I've seen, you've been very much interested in making use of the technology we have to benefit how councils run, how people interact with council, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you can think of just off the top of your head that technology-wise is a direction council needs to look at over the next term, or may look at possibly, or that you'd be interested in having them look at as we move forward?
For me, it's always been all of those things that I've pushed for. It's always about transparency, and we're the experts in democracy. The government of the district is the expert in democracy, so we have to take it to the people in whatever means that we need to do that. But I guess ultimately what I would like was it to be right there on your device, particularly to reach younger people. Whether that was an app, whether that was I don't know. I mean, I'm certainly not I love technology and I like using it, and I think there's opportunities, but I'm not that au fait with it. But if I could get local democracy on a daily basis in your hand, and not a website, because websites are flat and they're static and I don't know, they're just a bit boring these days, aren't they? So if I could do that, and then I'd be quite happy with that, because there's a whole lot of other ideas that in terms of taking democracy throughout the 3 years, not just at election time to the people.
Yes, because that's actually the one thing with the voter turnout. I know Richard Briggs is aiming for 40% turnout.
Yeah.
That's the same.
Yeah.
Because he's promised me free coffee if we get to that.
That'd be amazing if it got to 40, but I don't think it will.
And I think part of it's because, yes, we don't have civics training in schools, so people aren't in touch with their democratic process.
Yeah.
Therefore, that affects voting. Plus, how many people actually... I find it quite atrocious, the number of people who don't recognise our sitting councillors. I have a good reason to recognise them, admittedly, but I'm quite surprised. The mayor turned up at just because he's on the way to meetings, he turned up at my place briefly to do a quick short video, right? My neighbours wondered who the hell he was, and a couple of them were turning up, and I introduced them to him, and after he left, they came to me and said, "Was it actually the mayor?" I said, "Yeah, it's the mayor." They were like a little bit surprised, but they didn't have a clue who he was.
No.
Right. Now, he's not the only one.
Yeah.
I reckon I could stop just about anyone on the street and say, name our councillors.
Yeah. No, they couldn't.
And good luck if they got at least 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
You would probably be one of the names that people would come up with most easily.
Yeah.
And just not. Dave might be another one.
Yeah, and Martin. I think so.
But apart from that, I think most people would be struggling.
Yeah.
And I think that comes back to what you're saying about getting the transparency and getting it. It's not just transparency, it's getting people connected to the council so that we take an interest in what decisions council are making, but also at election time it's taking an interest in the voting process and choosing wisely.
Yeah.
But for the rest of the 3 years, it's taking an interest in what's actually happening in council, so that if a large number of people don't want something to happen, they actually know at the beginning that it's being discussed, and they can speak up and say, no, we don't want that.
Yep. And they're listened to.
Yes, that's the other thing.
Politicians don't listen, which is one of the top 4 reasons why people don't vote. First one is don't know who the candidates are. Second one is my vote doesn't matter. Why should I bother?
Yeah.
I can't remember what the third one was, but the fourth one is politicians don't listen anyway.
Yeah.
So, the third top one was, as I've looked at all this research, my life's busy. And people's lives are busy. But
that's where technology comes into it.
Well, that's where technology. And,
as I said to you and Wilson today, you're not now sitting at the dinner table with a newspaper reading it. You've got it on like umpteen different devices, TV, cell phone, iPad, tablet, name it.
Yeah.
You can access that information so long as the council itself is making that available for you to view.
That's right, yeah. And we don't. We disappear. I don't, because I've always been available and always been out there with social media and whatever mechanisms I can use.
A lot of the things that I discover that are happening in council, there's been a number of things I've discovered because of your social media. That you go, oh, okay, that's happening, or this issue's come up, and that sort of thing, because you've discussed how a decision has been made or not made, whatever.
I think a lot of it too is, so only 30% of people vote, so that's, one in 3 people you're going to stop on the street might be able to name 1 or 2 city councillors, let alone the mayor. But it's not being intrusive, and I'm certainly not saying that as mayor I'm going to be, intrusive in your lives, because I appreciate people's lives are busy, but it's knowing that where to get the information, how to access it, and that it's easy when you get to that point, whether, as I said, it's on your device, easy for you to ask a question, give some feedback, be heard, be listened to, and then you can dip out again and go about your lives. It's really hard for someone who hasn't engaged with council before to even know where to start.
Yeah, and that's just from the point of view of finding out what's happening. Never mind if you have to go to the next level of discussing an issue or doing a presentation or any of that sort of thing. Yes, for people like me, keeping in touch with what's happening is relatively easy because we enjoy doing that. But there are a lot of issues that affect people that if they had more connection with council, just to be able to observe something or know something's happening and that things coming up for discussion, whatever it happens to be, and see what's happening with that, they would feel that their vote counts more.
Yeah, that's right.
Because, if I think about this, I can shape the council, shape the decision makers, and then I can keep an eye on them.
That's right. If you don't know what's going on, you can't hold council to account. That's one of my big things about, and a whole lot of plans and stuff that I have, and a lot of them I put on Facebook in terms of council at clinics and online citizens panels and all of that stuff. So it's completely transparent, and you can hold council to account. Look, it's really, really important, because I don't believe elected representatives are there to make decisions for you, and I've seen that too much this term. We're there to represent you, what you want for the city, not what I personally want. Not buying buildings for 54% above market value because you've got a business hat on and you think, well, if I was in business, I'd do that. Government isn't a business. It's representing people and delivering services that they want. I mean, yes, I understand that we're elected to make the decisions, but we're elected to make decisions that represent the views of the people who elect
You're
us.
elected because you can't have the entire population of Hamilton turn up to every meeting
No,
to make these
that's
decisions.
right. That'd be
So,
interesting. Yeah.
So the
That's right.
idea is
Yeah.
that we choose the people we think are going to best represent us.
Yeah.
You then make decisions keeping in mind what the people in Hamilton actually
Yeah.
are most likely to
Yeah.
want and be happy with.
That's right. Yeah.
Sometimes those may go, a good councillor, sometimes those may go against what you would like to do.
That's right. Yeah.
But if the majority of Hamilton want to go in a particular direction, then sometimes
Yeah.
there are times when there's some things that just have to be done for the good of the people.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Because yeah, buses are one, making the availability, even though a lot of people don't often see the sense in them
Yeah.
because they drive a car.
That's
They're
right.
not looking far enough ahead
Yeah.
and looking at, as I was talking with, I can't remember who it was now, but anyway, it was about giving choices to people.
Yeah.
Not saying everyone has to ditch the car,
Yeah.
it's just giving choices to people.
Yeah.
And you look at places like Wellington, they've got a public transport system that's unbelievable. Auckland's is not too bad either, but Wellington, you can go almost anywhere in Wellington, and so many business people travel to work on bus or
Yeah.
train down there. It's quite surprising.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in Wellington, so I'm used to public transport that's efficient and that works. It's not efficient enough in Hamilton, and it's the public transport debate is such an interesting one, particularly at this election, because never before in our world have we been so convinced by convenience and so driven by convenience. You know, we get food bags to our homes, supermarket can be delivered, Uber Eats, and all of these things. It's all based on convenience because lives are so busy. And yet the number one thing that 97% of Hamiltonians have access to, the most convenient thing we have, is a private motor vehicle.
Yeah.
Now, a bus is never going to deliver that convenience in a city that's so spread out and urban like us. If I had to take public transport, I would be at 30% of my capacity daily to get around and to be productive as an elected member. Because I can have 5 to 6 meetings in different locations every single day. So I'm all over the place, and I'd never be able to achieve that with a bus because they're just not convenient.
Yeah. But then there are other people who their car sits doing nothing for 8 hours.
Yeah.
They drive to work, sits do nothing,
Yeah.
and then they drive home again and sit in the traffic jam at the
Yeah.
roundabout just up the road here,
Yeah.
which was, I must admit, it was easier on a bike getting through that
easy on a
roundabout than in the
bike.
car.
Yeah.
And I know people who are in their car all the time to do with their job or whatever.
Yeah.
Like councils, you're going all over the place.
Yeah.
But I think Hamilton needs to look at these issues. It's the public transport thing, the cycling, electric scooters, all these things, so that they can work together. It's not like they have to compete with each other. They just need to work together.
And you need to be able to provide choices for people to make their own choice. I'm not interested in telling people what to do, telling them what they should do or forcing issues. I know, like for me, for example, I've never owned a bike. I'd love to, but my mum had a dream when I was little that I got killed on a bicycle, so she never bought me one. So I had a deprived childhood. So I think I've been on a bike about 6 or 7 times in my entire life.
So we're almost exact opposites from that.
Oh, because you live on a bike.
Yeah, I've never owned a car. I think I've driven one a few times. Yeah, when I was really young, I started learning to drive with this grand expectation that I'd actually get round to getting a driver's license.
Yeah.
But for a number of things, I just never got round to doing it, and it sort of never happened. It kept sliding down the to-do list, and it never It never became so important. It rose to the top of the list.
See, I've been driving since the day I turned 15. I have been driving and have owned a car. Some really crappy cars back then. I remember CV joints would fly out the back of my Morris Minor, and good grief. You'd look and think, what was that driving along? And to see these joints and things flying out behind you. And
back in the days when you could actually, if you knew enough, you could fix your own car. Nowadays, you look at it and go, that looks much like my laptop. I'll leave that to someone else.
Oh, no. But I mean, if I could get from my home in Dinsdale safely off-road, because I will not cycle on the road with human flesh and a big hunk of metal travelling at speed, there's no way I can compete with that. Then in the summer I probably would bike to work. if I could do it all off-road safely. So, but that's a choice that I would make in the future when that choice is available for me, which my primary thing is safety. And I'm sure it is for a lot of parents with, you know, going to schools and, you know, for kids going to schools, you know, we're always complaining about, you know, you certainly notice when school holidays are because the traffic just disappears. But I understand from those parents' perspective, they don't want kids driving, you know, biking on roads. So there's no way, if I had children, I would be happy with that. So I understand their safety concerns. But until you create the capacity for them to make the decision for themselves, I'm not interested in forcing anyone into or out of public transport.
Yeah, and again, it's the choice, but making the choice available to them so that the environment to make that choice is safe.
Yeah, that's right.
We're now going to be having a rail connection between Hamilton and Auckland.
Yeah.
I wonder how many weeks Dave McPherson celebrated that one, because every election he's brought that one up, or been part of the team that's brought that up.
Yes.
And now it's like he's just won. You know, I think it's probably the biggest. Whether no matter what happens in the elections, I think that's the biggest thing he's won.
Well, I think the only thing that'll top that now for him, if I can speak on his behalf, is the day that, you know, all the VIPs and the elected officials get to ride the train for the first time. I mean, that will be momentous for him, and he has earned that. But I mean, I'm in love with trains. As I said, you know, Wellington, I grew up, I lived in Porirua, so I'd get on the bus to the train station, take the train into Central City, get on the tram buses, trolley buses. But it worked.
They were hilarious when there was a power cut. I remember being stuck in the middle of Lambton Quay, and it's like, power's gone off. So they stalled for a while, and you go, oh, no big deal. It's like, I went to work early, so I'll just sit here and wait. And that's the thing, I think, with technology now, you can actually, if you're the sort of person who needs to travel to Auckland or wherever it happens to be, you're going on public transport, you can actually be productive while you're doing that, if you want to.
And there's massive. I've spoken to a lot of businesses and a lot of employees that I'm surprised at the amount of people that do commute to Auckland daily, and they have said in a heartbeat they will take that train, because there's 4 hours in a day where they can be productive. They can have meetings, which is why it's critical that those carriages are of exceptional standard. You know, that they're comfortable, that the tables are nice, that lighting and warmth and
they've got
Wi-Fi, that has to, because that could be the one thing that would just people would go no. And you're only going to try it once. First impression kind of.
If you have a train that doesn't have Wi-Fi on it, pretty much no one's going to get on it nowadays. I occasionally go to Auckland, or fairly often go to Auckland doing street photography and other things like this.
And so some of the buses have it?
Yeah, and I always book the front seats. That, they're comfortable, more leg room. But also, they got better connections for connecting, for either charging your devices or for the Wi-Fi. Right? And because I'm often doing editing and sorting images as I'm coming back to Hamilton to make use of the time. And I find that quite enjoyable. But you know, and having that facility there. And I must admit, when that train's up and running, if I'm not there on the day when all the politicians and stuff go for a spin, I'll be not far behind it, just for the sake of going to. I think it's going to end at Papakura. I think it is. I'll be doing it, even if all I do is go to Papakura and come back again. Because I haven't actually worked out Auckland's public transport system yet. But I'm going to have to do that.
I don't think a lot of Aucklanders have either.
But I'll be doing that trip just for the sake of going for a ride on it. So
and you know, probably once, twice a year in my role as a counsellor, I get to, you know, there'll be things, either meetings or an overnight conference in Auckland. I would not hesitate to take the train. Wouldn't hesitate, because I hate the drive. I mean, I love driving and I love my car, but I hate driving to Auckland. Hate it.
As a passenger, I found I hate the drive to Auckland sometimes. I often catch the bus to Central Auckland, because it comes down by Sky Tower, right? And all my photography trips start from pretty much there. But a friend of mine, another photographer, and I decided we'd go up, and he said, we'll drive up, because we'll go to the North Shore afterwards and do a bunch of other stuff and go to different parts of Auckland.
Yeah.
And we ended up going to Muriwai, right, afterwards. And the funny bit was, probably just bad timing, we got stuck in a traffic jam on the motorway heading into Auckland.
Yeah.
Right? And it got to the point that we're going past an accident so slowly that was on the side of the road.
Yeah.
I could actually reach into the back, get my camera out and take photographs of the accident as we went past, which is normally not something you can do if you're going at normal speed.
No.
But it was quite, from my perspective, it was both annoying and hilarious because we were going so slow through that. I even offered to say, well, next off-ramp, I'll get off and go for a walk and go and find coffee and meet you at the off-ramp after that.
We could have.
And, because as a car driver, I suppose certain people are probably used to that sort of thing. With me, so even around town, I'm used to being on a bike and being able to circumvent most traffic jams.
Yeah.
Most times. I can go up and get to the front of the queue of traffic by the light, so I catch the first light change.
Yeah.
Whereas you might be 6 cars back and it might go through 2 light changes and things like this.
Yeah.
Even I find it annoying when I get stuck behind cars that have pulled right over into the cycle lane, right, and they're sitting in the cycle lane, so I can't get past them.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, come on, get out of my way.
Yeah.
But oh, thanks very much for your time.
That's all right.
Any last words to the viewers to do with the election, apart from obviously get out and vote Angela?
And vote for Angela. It's really important to make an informed vote.
Yeah.
Find out. I mean, you know me. Hopefully, you know me.
You can always bug her and ask her questions on social media. Anyway.
Social media. You can call me on the phone. You can email me. I'll come to your house if a cup of tea, and a biscuit or something. I'm prepared to do all of that. But with the other council seats, it is 13 people that people are choosing, and it's really important to find out who the candidates are. I share a quick story with you. Prior to 2007, when I was elected, on the West, I used to always vote for this one particular person. They're no longer there.
Yeah.
And I looked at the booklet and I looked at the photo and I thought that looks like a nice person, and I read the 150 words and I believed the 150 words, of course written by the candidate themselves. And I always voted for them. And then I got elected in 2007 and I got to see them up close and personal in real life. And then I realised they did not represent me at all. Okay. And it would have only taken a couple of minutes of a conversation. You get a feeling for someone.
Yeah.
And when I actually met them, and
you got a bit of a surprise.
I got a bit of a surprise, and then started to see what they considered were, important issues for the city.
Yeah.
And they didn't represent me at all, and that really stuck with me because I felt like I had been cheated out of my vote.
Yeah.
So find out who the candidates are and make an informed vote.
The other thing people need to remember is each ward has got six positions, but you don't have to vote for all 6.
No, you don't.
You can just, if there's only 2 people you want on council, you can just choose those 2 people.
Yeah.
You don't have to vote for 6 people.
No, you don't.
A lot of people don't realise that. Again, it comes back to lack of civics and skills and understanding of these things.
Yeah.
I will vote for 6 if there are 6 people I think are worth voting for.
Yeah.
If there's only 3 that I think should be voted for, I will just vote for 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I've always actually been like that. I don't think I've ever selected 6 candidates because there's only ever been 3 or 4 that I've wanted in the job. But I guess you leave, if you don't do that, the other side of the coin is you leave it up to someone else to choose those bottom 2, bottom 3. I have heard people that will then vote for the outliers to effectively take a vote off people they don't like. So they'll, look at the bottom of the list and go, that person's never going to get on, so I'm giving them my vote. Interesting way to do it, but I don't know that it would work.
No.
In reality.
Yeah, strategic voting of just the people you think should be on council is probably more effective. But
Yes.
Anyway, well, thanks
All
very
right.
much for your
Thanks,
time and
Lance.
good luck.
Thank you. Yes,
And,
I'll rescue my
yeah.
very wet volunteers out
Yes.
in the shallow. I've been sitting here in the
Okay.
nice